which is pre-existent sovereignty. That's the language of the court. And when they talk about reconciliation, they're talking about your pre-existent sovereignty and the assumed sovereignty of the crown. That's the language of the court. I'm not making it up. Pre-existent sovereignty, assumed sovereignty of the crown. So, to get back to my example about moose hunting, you have the jurisdiction to decide how you're going to deal with this, what you're going to do, and so on. And when you've determined that, you're in a position to engage Canada or the province in terms of their assumed jurisdiction and to reconcile. And where we've seen that take place, there's been no big disruption. We didn't kill every moose that walked the earth, catch every fish that swam the river or the sea. You know, it hasn't disrupted Canada the way we know it. And there's no reason to be afraid of it. In fact, what we need to do is to show Canada, the provinces, business and industry, that it's in their best interest to reconcile with us at this level. And I think if we put ourselves in that position, then there's no reason for them to be charging our people for exercising their right. But again, that sounds easy. But to put ourselves there is a monumental challenge. It's a huge job. You know, are we willing to give somebody the mandate to begin this process of organizing, taking the steps to change, engaging the people, while everything else needs to get done too, right? We can't stop everything. But I think that we need to think about giving the people
one of the 5 elements of the norm of self-determination and internationally recognized right. We are not self-governing as long as the Indian Act regulates our internal political process. Since self-government overarches the elements of self-determination, non-discrimination, social wellness, cultural integrity, and territory, how can we address any of these other 4 elements without first organizing, self-governing? And we'll stop there. It goes on, but I think you get the question.
Well, if you take this whole discussion and you put it into a nutshell, it's all about self-government and self-determination. It's about self-reliance. It's about rejuvenation of our nations and our people. It's about rebuilding our nationhood. And so at the heart of all of this is the reality of self-government. That's what it's all about. Who is the self and self-government? What are we talking about there? You know, you, that's right. It's you, it's me, it's the people. It's not the Minister of Indian Affairs, it's not the Regional Director General, it's not the local government funding services officer, it's you. And so this whole strategy that I've been talking about is about reorganizing ourselves to effectively put the self and self-government and make it happen. And people, when we talk about government, it's not that confusing in terms of what it is. All government is an organization set up to get things done, right? As determined by the people. And the way we do it depends on what you want to do. There's nobody that can come in here and try to impose a model on you because somebody else is doing it. Right? I see some guys in Vancouver walking around with big baggy pants hanging way down here. I'm not going to wear those same pants. It doesn't work for me. It's the same with this. So it all comes down to, and the question is a good one to end it on, that yeah, this is what we're talking about: self-government, self-determination, self-reliance, self-respect, being responsible for ourselves and taking that control back about who we are right here, and be able to give that to our children. You know what? I'll end right here. The decision that we have to make is this, as I mentioned earlier. My children are the 7th generation under the Indian Act. The decision I have to make is, am I going to let my children be the 7th generation to succumb to the Indian Act, to be assimilated under the Indian Act, to be imprisoned by it, to not have freedom in their minds, to have that ugly memory for another generation? Or am I going to make a decision? No. My children are going to be the first generation of the next 7 generations to be free, so that they can make a decision that protects our children 7 generations down the road, and be assured of it, because they have the power. We don't. Right now, we're assimilated, like a gentleman said in the corner over there, and we will be until we make a decision to stop. And that's your power. So thank you very much. I appreciate this a whole lot. I love this. You know, it's not a chore to me to come here, because I think that ultimately we need to help one another, because the struggle that we're up against, we all have in common. And sometimes we get tired of listening to each other, right? Even though we might be speaking 100% truth. You bring in some stranger from the West, say the same thing, and everybody go, yeah, wow, that's good. And meanwhile, you've been saying it already. So the point I'm getting at is that if someone else is doing something good that you could take and learn from, one of the other things that we do as a center is we hook people up so that we help one another, right? And if we know somebody that could really address a matter that's important to you, we can work with you to bring that person in to speak to it. Because some of these things, they seem complicated, but they're not. It's just whether or not we can open our minds to listen to the person who's talking. If I'm in my village, and they know I run for chief every 2 years, when I get up to talk, there's a good chance no one's listening. But if somebody else came in and talked, people will listen. So, thank you very much. I appreciate this.
Merci beaucoup, Herb George. C'était vraiment très, très inspirant et très intéressant. Vous pouvez rester assis. Le dîner vous sera servi directement sur la table. Si vous désirez, il reste